Spider-Man's villains have always been more than just adversaries. They're reflections of society, ambition, and even ourselves. We love to hate them, don't we? But what happens when a villain makes a point so compelling that it forces us to stop and think? Could Spider-Man's foes sometimes have a case? In today's video, we're reversing the roles and, again, exploring Spider-Man's rogues gallery to ask a daring question. What if the villain had a point? Let's be honest, there's something captivating about a villain whose motives aren't purely evil. These are the antagonists who challenge our perspectives, blur the lines between right and wrong, and maybe, just maybe, make us question the hero's choices. Oh, absolutely. The best villains are the ones who hold a mirror to society, or the hero. They force us to grapple with uncomfortable truths, like how far we're willing to go to achieve justice, or whether the ends really justify the means.
They don't care about us. We build their roads and we fight all their wars and everything. They don't care about us. We have to pick up after them. We have to eat their table scraps.
Take Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming. Here's a guy who isn't trying to take over the world or cause chaos for chaos's sake. He's a blue-collar worker pushed to the brink, trying to provide for his family after being tossed aside by a system that favors the rich and powerful. Wait, hold on. Does that make us the bad guys? Toomes isn't a monster. He's a man who's angry, desperate, and willing to break the law to survive. And while his methods are extreme, his frustration is deeply relatable. That's what makes him so fascinating.
You once spoke to me about intelligence. That it was a gift to be used for the good of mankind. A privilege.
And then there's Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man 2. Otto Octavius starts as a brilliant, idealistic scientist who genuinely wants to improve the world. But when tragedy strikes, his obsession with his work and the influence of his mechanical arms drive him to dangerous extremes. Doc Ock doesn't want to destroy for the sake of destruction. He's trying to finish his life's work, no matter the cost. You see, what makes these villains so compelling is that their motivations are rooted in human flaws, ambition, frustration, and depression. They don't just oppose Spider-Man, they reflect his own struggles and force him to confront his principles. In the last video, How to Write a Boring Villain, we looked at what happens when an antagonist falls flat. Today, we're exploring the other side, villains who are so well crafted, they make us stop and think. But before we get into it, go ahead and like and subscribe, because next up in our Spider-Man character development series, we'll discuss how to make the audience care for the villain, and break down what turns a foe into an unforgettable, three-dimensional character. So, what makes a villain with a point so unsettling? It's not just their ability to wreak havoc, it's their logic. These aren't villains you can dismiss as just bad. Their motivations often tap into universal struggles like ambition, loss, or inequality. And in Spider-Man's world, this dynamic is dialed up to 11. Let's talk about Dr. Octopus. Otto Octavius wasn't just another mad scientist. He was a visionary, someone who wanted to harness the power of the sun to create unlimited energy. A noble goal, right? But when his device malfunctions in Spider-Man 2, tragedy strikes. He loses his wife, and his mechanical arms, programmed with their own AI, start influencing his mind. Suddenly, the lines blur between Otto, the scientist, and Doc Ock, the villain. Like a ship dragged under by its own anchor, Doc Ock's descent into villainy wasn't entirely his fault. His dream turned into a nightmare, and instead of letting it go, he became consumed by the need to finish what he started. That obsession pushed him to cross moral boundaries. But here's the thing, can we entirely blame him? What makes Doc Ock so compelling is that his motivations come from a place we all understand. Who hasn't been driven to the brink of failure or felt the weight of unfinished dreams? His battle with Spider-Man isn't just physical, it's a clash of values. Doc Ock forces Peter to ask how far is too far in the pursuit of good. Now let's turn to Vulture, a villain grounded in reality. Adrian Toomes isn't an evil genius or a power-hungry megalomaniac. He's a blue-collar worker, discarded by a society that prioritizes billionaires over everyday people. After losing his salvage job to Stark Industries, he decides to take matters into his own hands. Oh, he definitely did. Toomes represents a frustration that's all too real. The anger of being forgotten by the system you helped build. His logic is painfully relatable. Why shouldn't he use alien tech to level the playing field? Sure, it's illegal, but isn't it also unfair that he's been pushed into a corner? The brilliance of Vulture's character is that he doesn't just challenge Spider-Man physically, he challenges his morality. Toomes forces Peter to think about who he's protecting and why. That's the power of a villain with a point. They don't just oppose the hero, they make the hero and the audience question everything. Now, you can bring Vulture's villainous power and brilliance to your Spider-Man collection with the Marvel Legends Vulture action figure. With this incredible detail and dynamic design, relive the high-stakes battles and flight-powered drama of Homecoming. In the description below this video, click the link to have Vulture fly to your door. When the hero and the audience question everything, here's where it gets tricky. A villain's point doesn't absolve them of their actions. Both Vulture and Doc Ock crossed lines that Spider-Man couldn't ignore. Toomes endangered countless lives with his stolen alien tech, and Doc Ock risked destroying the city to complete his experiment. Their logic may be sound, but their methods? That's where they lose us, and that's why Spider-Man remains the hero. Villains with a point blur the boundaries of morality, making them some of the most thought-provoking characters in Spider-Man's universe. But here's the burning question. How do you make audiences care about these complex antagonists? Stick around as we reveal how to build emotional investment in even the most divisive villains. And if you're enjoying this breakdown of Spider-Man's most thought-provoking foes, the next episode, How to Make the Audience Care for the Villain, will take you even deeper into the emotional core of villainy. So, what's the lasting impact of a villain with a point? These are the characters that stick with us because they don't just challenge the hero, they challenge us. They force us to see the world through their eyes, even if only for a moment, and that makes their stories unforgettable. Take Doc Ock's redemption in Spider-Man 2. After an entire film of battling his own creation and Spider-Man, Otto Octavius finally breaks free from the AI's influence. In his final act, he chooses to destroy the very experiment that consumed him, saving the city and proving that even the most flawed characters can make the right choice. Wait, what? Did a villain just become a hero? Absolutely. Doc Ock's arc reminds us that great villains aren't static. They evolve, and sometimes they find redemption. That complexity is what makes his story so powerful.
I will not die, monster.
And then there's Vulture in Homecoming. After being defeated, Adrian Toomes keeps Peter Parker's identity a secret when he's in prison. Why? Because despite everything, he respects Spider-Man. That small moment speaks volumes about his character and adds layers to his story.
If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead.
These moments of humanity set villains like Doc Ock and Vulture apart. They're not evil for the sake of being evil. They're people who made questionable choices under extraordinary circumstances. That's what makes them resonate so deeply with audiences. But here's the kicker. A villain with a point doesn't just make us think, they make the hero better. By challenging Spider-Man's ideals, they force him to grow, adapt, and reaffirm his own beliefs. Without villains like Doc Ock or Vulture, Peter's journey wouldn't be nearly as compelling. Villains with a point are at the heart of Spider-Man's most memorable stories, and Adrian Toomes, the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming, is a perfect example. His motivations weren't about chaos, but survival in an unfair world, making him one of the MCU's most layered villains. So now you're ready to go even more in depth. Click on our next episode, How to Make the Audience Care for the Villain. We'll take a nosedive into the emotional connections that make these characters impossible to forget. For now, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, the best villains don't just make us hate them, they make us reflect.